Good morning. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is Noelle, and on camera I have Sebastian. Hello, Seb. And we are coming to you 100% live from the South African bush here in the beautiful, cool morning. If you want to send us a question or a comment, we do love them. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on YouTube chat. And hopefully in a little while, the Mara will also be joining us. Now, it's a really exciting morning for me and also for Scotty D. Scott's on foot and I'm in the vehicle, and we've got lots of lion tracks around the dam in front of the lodge. And so I have a two-pronged approach, trying to see if we can find these lions. There's big lion tracks for males, there's big lion tracks for females, and there's little tiny ones for cubs. So I'm thinking that the Nkuhumas are around and one of the Birmingham males. And so I'm just taking a wider loop while Scott and Herbie have a look on the ground near the dam there. Now, don't forget, exciting news, on the 4th of February for 5 nights, 10 o'clock Eastern, in the States, Safari Live is going to be live on Nat Geo Wild. And we're playing Safari Bingo. So, if you have a curiosity about Safari Bingo, what is Safari Bingo and what does it entail, go to natgeo.com/Safari Live and you will see all the rules and regulations there. And then 2 people will be able to win a trip. Well, 1 person can win a trip for 2 people, excuse me. 1 person wins a trip for 2 people, so 2 people will be able to come and be on safari. It's excellent. It's fantastic. I don't know where the safari will be in Africa, but I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere fun. Anyway, so Safari Bingo, it starts on the 4th of Feb, 10 o'clock Eastern time in the States, only live in the States. The rest of the live time will be with, oh, sorry guys. Nope, not a lion track. I got really excited. And then it's going to be on the 5th and the 6th and the 7th and the 8th. And so it's very exciting. Okay, so we're checking now around the backside of the lodge. We're not going to anything. I have a sneaky feeling that the tracks last night on quarantine, the ones that he was showing you so that you would be convinced that it's actually lying there, they came down to drink and then they went back. We're going to go look in quarantine while Herbie pan with Scott. And all the track came down. I would assume it might be the male that was with the one lioness from the Nkuhumas, and they were busy mating, because I'm not picking up anything else. Sorry for the back of my head. Busy driving. Don't want to run into anything. Okay, so we're just going to check this little area up here. The last time, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 days ago, we had the Nkuhuma lionesses hunting, maybe a little bit longer now, hunting inside of here. So they do like this area, and they do like this pan just down here. Sorry, Herbie's chatting with me in my ear. Okay, so those tracks are moving southwest away from the dam, which means that we should pick them up just here. Now, while I'm busy looking around to help Herbie pick up these tracks, I believe we're going to head on over to one of my colleagues. I didn't hear who, but we have Tristan out, we have Scott out, and then I'm not quite sure who's out in the Mara, but there's lots of us around. So let's head on over to one of them so they can also say good morning.
Yes, you have come straight to the bushwalk, and as you can see, we are on the trail of those lions that Noelle told you about. It looks like the entire Nkuhuma pride is moving away from the Vuyatela Dam into the Mulwati, and we are very, very excited. So, let's carry on. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Dave on camera, and you would have noticed there was a light shining on the track there. Had I not put my little cell phone torch there, or flashlight, it would have been very difficult to see those tracks because of the overcast, well, not overcast, with the fact the sun hasn't come out yet. So flat light makes tracking difficult, but when it's a whole pride of lion and when you've got Herbie ahead of you hot on the trail, I think we're going to get lucky. And we do need to be careful here not to get too excited and move too quickly on these tracks because it is quite thick, and we don't want to startle the lion and give them any reason to either run away or run towards us. So we'll keep sneaking through here. The tracks are still going. Take a look here. Just a quick look. You can see lots of pads of these lions as they move through. What's interesting is that even though they move quite close to the Vuyatela Dam, they didn't actually take a drink there. So maybe they're focused on trying to get themselves a meal as opposed to trying to get themselves something to drink. There was also tracks of another big male, and we're not sure if he would have joined up with the rest of the Nkuhumas pride. I can now see some tracks of the smallest little cub, the one that's got a bit of a cough. This is so exciting. Such beautiful thick vegetation in here. Yet there's a nice sandy pathway or trail that they're moving along, making it quite an easy job for us to continue on their trail. Now, in the few months that I've been back in Djuma, we haven't yet managed to find lions on foot yet. We've had lots of elephant sightings, leopard sightings, but no lion on foot, so I'm very excited to try and break that trend. Hello, Old Town Hannah. I think I may have got your name wrong. But you would like to know why is it that I'm always on walk all round Hannah? And, sorry about that. And isn't it dangerous? Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that it is more dangerous than being on a vehicle. There's definitely a little bit more risks involved with being on foot. But with Herbie ahead of us, with my experience in the bush together, we've got about 40 years of experience of being on foot. So as long as you kind of know what to look out for and know what to avoid, it's not really that dangerous out here. And what I like to do is to equate it to crossing a street. If you don't look left and look right when you cross a street in your hometown, that street will all of a sudden become very, very dangerous. But if you just take the basic precautions, all of a sudden your safety improves greatly. Okay, very good. I'm going to need a little bit of time to focus now. Keep up with Herbie and on the trail of these lions. Hopefully we'll find them sooner rather than later. For now, though, we're going to send you off to one of the others.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a splendid day. The sky is blue, the clouds have separated, and well, it looks like it's going to be a wonderful morning. There's lots of excitement in the air already with lion tracks and the Nkuhumas pride being around. So hopefully Scotty and Noel will be able to find them. Now, as Scott mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera today I've got a Senzo. There we go. Three-finger Senzo is what we should call him. And if he was a gangster, I think that would be his name. Remember that this is a live safari, so hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat should you want to get hold of us. Now, our plan is to go and follow up on Thandi and the cub. You might wonder why I'm very, very far away from that area, because I'm down near Shabamu Pans at the moment. And the reason why I'm down here is for the simple reason that yesterday we had a Shadulu, and that is a female that is fairly new to Djuma. She doesn't come to Djuma very often, and she tends to hang around more on Arathusa. And she crossed into Hofmann's last night and was going south, and she was on a serious mission where she was scent marking and she was moving quite quickly. And so I thought, well, maybe there's something going on, so I got hold of some of the other guys to find out what's been happening. And apparently that Hukamuri male crossed into the same area, not from our side but from Arathusa side. And so I just came down here in the off chance that maybe the two of them were together and potentially moving around in the same section. But it seems as though there's no tracks coming out of Hofmann's at all into our side, but it was worthwhile little sort of gamble before I start heading off towards Thandi. So it's also waiting for a little bit more light. I don't really want to be putting lights on the cub or anything like that with Thandi, so it was just a kind of time sort of waster, if you want to call it that, even though it's not a waste of time to come and check down here. And had we found them, it would have been really, really cool. So I wonder if they didn't meet up again last night. I would be very surprised if they didn't, given how that female was walking and scent marking and the male walking into a very similar area. I have a funny feeling the two of them must have joined up again, which is interesting. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I mean, maybe they do pop out at some point, but for now, no sign of them anywhere. And so now I'll start to try and head off towards Thandi's kill and see whether or not she's still there. I hope that she is. I'm sure that there's enough food there that she would have stayed overnight and will still be there. I'm really looking forward to seeing how big the little one has gotten, because it seems as though it's all over the place at the moment. I've watched a few clips of it jumping up and down and going from tree to tree and in and out and on mom and then running this way and that way, and so I'm really looking forward to to catching up with it. And they grow so fast at this age. I know that's a cliche saying, but it's very true. These little leopard cubs and lion cubs to a degree, they go from, when they get to that sort of 3-month age, they start to really grow quite quickly, and then they become quite lanky for a while until they get to about a year old, when that's when they kind of fill out and start to really kind of grow into their legs and into their body a little bit better, and their paws and ears, particularly in the case of Thandi's offspring, because all of her offspring have these ridiculously big ears when they're young, and then they grow into them a little bit and start to look a lot more like her and various other leopards we get out here. Kimberly, you're wondering how we protect ourselves. Well, depends on what we're protecting ourselves from. But in terms of wild animals and what we actually sort of have to deal with on a day-to-day basis by driving around out here, we don't really have to worry too much. The biggest protection that you can have is just being aware of your surroundings and being respectful to everything that you're seeing. So when you go into an area and you see something, now I think Senzo has spotted something at Treehouse Dam. Let's have a look here quickly. Senzo, what have you spotted? So I'll get back to that question now. Senzo's going to show me what he's spotted. What have you spotted there? No, it's just Senz maybe thought it was do you think it was a leopard, Senz? So Senzo spotted some leaves that it thought was a leopard, but there's a diecast to give a consolation prize. There we go. So for effort, you have been rewarded with an animal just strolling across the open area, and nice to see one that's alive and not char-grilled like the one that we saw yesterday. And that's a male, fully grown male that's busy crossing over. You can see how well they blend in as soon as they get into those sort of grassy, thicker areas. That coat is the perfect coloration just to hide them away completely. But back to kind of protecting ourselves. So the biggest thing is to be vigilant and to be respectful. So when you're watching animals, try and watch what they're doing, pick up any signs that they have that they could potentially be aggressive, or that they are unhappy, or that there's something that's irritating them, and then just leave them alone. If you just drive away, and we're lucky that we have these engines and that we can go into first, second, third, fourth gears and drive away. There's not very many animals that would be able to keep up with you if you really drove quite quickly. And so the best thing is just to look, and if they seem as though they're not really comfortable, then just to leave them alone, and that's how you'll stay as safe as possible. Right, well, we've checked Treehouse Dam, so we're now going to head towards Thandi and Kill. And so while we do that, I believe our Mara units are out and about, and so let's go across to Jamie.
Couldn't agree more, Tristan. A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to some very comfortable animals in the Masai Mara. So you've jumped across from South Africa and joined us here, where we are on the open plains near Talek, which is a one-horse town, I think would be the best possible description one could provide. So we are outside, we're in the National Reserve near a place called Talek, and it is a beautiful, clean, cloudy and rather cold we had yesterday. The downpours put a bit of a spanner in our works. We were going to go and look for Malika, but I don't quite know how we're going to manage on these soggy roads, but we'll figure it out as we go along. My name is Jamie, and this morning Adrian is on camera with me, and I'm hoping we can avoid getting stuck as we travel back towards the National Reserve, which is back towards the Triangle, sorry, because we're in the National Reserve at the moment on our way home. We would have gone the shortcut, which is that way, towards where that hot air balloon is currently lighting up the sky like something out of a dream. Or it was. Of course, when I drew attention to it, it stopped doing it. So that would have been our shortcut, where those Topi are busy playing about in the mud. But unfortunately, the Talek River, to say it is not crossable would be the understatement of the century. There is a bridge, but there's still another river past that. It's a place called Double Crossing where you go across it. And I'm going to work on the assumption that that's a no. Topi sticking its horns in the mud, as they are doing regularly these days, as we come through to our Topi breeding season. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be very, very interesting. All right, onwards we go. We've got a long way to go before we get to where we need to be. So we're going to send you all the way to where Ralph is already close to home in the Mara Triangle. Let's go and see what he's searching for.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome aboard the Sunrise Safari here in the Mara Triangle. So this is the second part of the Kenyan safari this morning, and we're looking out towards the Mara River, watching the hot air balloons floating in the very grey sky in the background there. But you're watching Safari Live, and my name is Ralph Kirsten. On the camera we've got Archie this morning. How's it, Archie? Please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Please send us your questions and your comments and get involved in the largest game drive in the world. Now, as you can see, it's a very grey sky that we are experiencing. Yesterday afternoon was very stormy, and we had a lot of rain last night, and even at camp there was a little bit of hail that was reported. So a little bit wet this morning, and the clouds have hung around, so it is a little bit gloomy and wet, but we'll see how we go. We'll stick a little bit to the main road, and my plan for this morning is to head straight towards the hyena den. Now, Hannah, you want to know how many animals are estimated to live in the Masai Mara? Hannah, I'm not exactly sure on all the animals like that, but we have over 400 species of birds, and very special birds we do have here in the Masai Mara. And where I am sitting here in the Mara Triangle, we do get most of those 400 birds, or 400 plus birds. I think it's about 426. And then we are talking a lot of mammals, a lot of reptiles, and even down to little fish and all sorts. There is a multitude of different animals here, and quite a few special ones as well. This little birdie that we have sitting next to the road here looks like a yellow-throated longclaw, and been giving a very nice call here early in the morning. As you know, a lot of the birds call in the early morning and late afternoon because it's all down to energy efficiency, because at those times the air is a little bit more dense, and so their call travels. Let's listen to him. He does a very nice call. There we go. Very nice. The yellow-throated longclaw. They've got one extended claw or toe, and a little toe on each foot. But these are true grass birds. You won't find these frequenting around forests and that, like the little pipits and rufous-naped larks, only around the grassland type areas. Now, Patrick, you want to know what is my favorite animal and why? Well, Patrick, I do sort of sometimes change almost on a daily basis with this kind of animal and which one is my favorite, because sometimes I spend time with different animals and then I really start to get a little bit of a soft spot for them. For the time being, I must say that hyenas are really my favorite animal, and such is the reason that I'm heading straight for the den, because they are such adaptable animals. It is incredible, especially around them, seeming to be hermaphrodites, but they're not. Females being in charge, where it's a little bit against the system or the normal behavior of animals, with males being in charge. And another thing is that you never see sick or elderly or injured hyenas. It's very intriguing for me. I wonder if it's because they eat each other, or because they are just so strong that you don't see those kind of animals around. But something that I do want to see with hyenas, which I've never seen, well, not a lot anyway. I've seen it once or twice, but it is very difficult to watch because of their behavior. But that is hyenas actually hunting. Now, I know that yesterday there was a little bit of that going on with Jamie, with them snapping at the heels of some zebra, and I have seen on occasion them chasing zebra into fences, and so, but very rarely do you get to see them hunting. So that's something I'm going to be looking for, and hopefully we can get to see that pretty soon. But while I start up now and head towards the hyena den, let's head you all the way back on down south to South Africa, and Tristan, let's see how he's getting on this morning.
Well, we're getting on splendidly because we've just come up the road and out of the Mulawati, and there's elephants all over the place, which is quite nice to have. So super thrilled to have a few ellies around. And talking about favorite animals, well, these guys are probably my second favorite of all of them out here. And the reason for that is that they are just very entertaining. I love spending time with elephants. There's so many complexities to the way that they go about things, the way that they are able to show intelligence and kind of do the things that they do, and the tight family units that they have is pretty amazing to watch, and to watch it kind of all unfold and the herd interact with one another is always very, very special. So these guys are definitely high up there. Unfortunately, they will not overthrow the leopards, and no animal will, I don't think, in my lifetime, because, well, we all know that I'm a bit crazy about the spotted cats, but they will have to wait for now. Thandi will have to just hold on a little bit while we spend some time with these beautiful ellies. And it's quite interesting. There's most of these ones at the back here, all young ones. You can see it's a small group. There's an adult female at the back, so you can see the size of all of the small ones. And I don't know what they're doing there. They seem to be sniffing around in a sort of muddy section there. I don't think there's water there, but maybe there's a bit of sort of nutrients in the mud itself, so they might be eating mud. It does sometimes happen with some of the animals. It's called geophagia, and it's basically they absorb nutrients that they can't get from the plants that they're eating. They'll sometimes then chew on bits of soil and those kind of things. But maybe there's also a little bit of water in there. Doesn't look like it, because their trunks, none of their trunks have got a wet end to them. So I don't think there is water. There must be something else that is causing them to be interested in this little pan and to see what's going on. But it is a beautiful herd. There's a lot of them. They all stretched out behind these youngsters in the thickets. And so as we're sitting here, just starting to see one after another start appearing, which is really very, very nice. Oh, itchy ear. Always good to scratch one's ear in the morning. Make sure that you get rid of any of those itches. And I always love watching these young ones, because in the early mornings they often are quite playful, and you'll get a situation where they'll kind of push each other around and they'll shake their heads, and there'll be lots of kind of shoving and gamesmanship that goes on in the mornings. So it's good to be with an elephant herd first thing. I always enjoy it. So you can see the sun is now just breaking up over the clouds. I think we're going to have a very hot day today, but it will still be nice and cool for the first little bit. But once that sun gets up a little higher, certainly we'll definitely get a little bit more heat out of it. First Lady, wondering if I've ever seen abnormal behavior from an elephant. Well, First Lady, it depends what you describe as abnormal, but I suppose yes. The answer to that is yes. That Fang, so I don't know if you we're watching. Fang is an elephant that occurs here that has this backward facing tusk. She's quite a big female, and we had an incredible afternoon with her where she was clearly in discomfort, and she was going up and down and lying down and up and moving around, and she kept coming towards the vehicle, and then she did these kind of loops around the vehicle when a male joined her, and she was clearly in a lot of distress. So that was an abnormal sort of behavior to see. I'm pretty sure it was because she had a miscarriage, and so she was discharging and everything wasn't quite working, and so I think that's why she was showing that abnormal behavior. But in terms of other than that, the only other time I've seen abnormal behavior is in elephants that are not very well at all, and so those are elephants that would come into a camp and they would sit there and they would just feed and they would try and they would show very lethargic signs and really not move around too much, and kind of head would be droopy. So that happens from time to time, but other than that there's no real normal behavior for ellies. Ellies will do what they need to do to survive and what they need to do to be able to thrive in the areas that they're in. And so sometimes they'll find them that they'll be playing, sometimes they'll be fairly defensive of where they are, sometimes they're going to be splashing in mud. Feeding patterns always change, so they're quite an adaptable species, and then you'll find that there's a lot of different behavior that elephants exhibit. But in terms of abnormal, I'd say the Fang thing is probably the most abnormal I've seen out of an elephant herd. It's certainly the first time that I ever witnessed it, and it was a very interesting process to watch. But there is a little bit of mud there that they're getting. I don't think there's water, but there's a little mud that they're messing around in. What they're getting out of it, I'm not quite sure. So, Hannah, you're wondering about the muscles in the amazing noses? Well, the trunk of an elephant has a serious number of muscles. So they reckon around 8,000 muscles that go through that trunk that are running in all different directions, and that allows it to be able to twist, turn, get longer, shorter, up, down, whatever you want to call it. It just goes everywhere it really wants to, and it's an amazing appendage for these guys to have. Without it, an elephant is pretty much at a loss. It's not going to be able to normally survive. You'll find, particularly if they lose their trunks near their tusks, it's very difficult for them because they've got to then try and wade into water, and so in dry periods they struggle to find deep enough water to get to. You'll also find a situation where food is more difficult to come across, especially when they are trying to feed in different places. So it's vitally important for an elephant to have. I mean, they can survive without one. I've seen an elephant that lost its trunk close to its tusks, and you had a situation where the rest of the herd actually used to break branches and then drop or put the branches towards it, and it would then take them in its mouth and feed off them. So they can look after one another, but it's a very big disadvantage. What are you doing? I feel like these two are about to have a game. I'm not sure what's going to be the game, but I feel like that's going to happen. This one has got its trunk going all over the place, and there's a little smile. They are funny, these young elephants. Like I say, that's why I enjoy spending time with them. But interestingly enough, if you see the one on the right-hand side there, so the one at the back has got no tusks. Now, that elephant is old enough to have tusks, and it doesn't look like there is any development of tusks in that sort of cheek area, and so I think that she's not going to have tusks, which is quite a common thing to see these days. Right, well, we're going to carry on and try and go find Thandi, but I believe Scotty D has had lots of luck with the predators, and I think he has managed to find those lions.
We have certainly found the lions. Come and take a closer look. We just want to try and get you a quick glimpse from on foot. I think they might know that we're here, but I'm not entirely sure. I've just had a very, very brief glimpse of them. And if we just creep forward a few meters to over here, take a look through there. They've got a little bit of a fright, actually, and they're all moving off. And that's a good sign of how predators are often more cautious of us than actually wanting to attack us as soon as they caught wind of us. They've started moving away, but Noelle does know that. They hear Herbie's just called on the radio, so hopefully she's going to come into this area and relocate. I don't want to put any more pressure on them, but yay, we've got them, and they've been slinking in and out of this little river bed to our right and up onto the road. Here's obviously where they've ended up. How awesome. Our first lions on foot in a couple of months. So very, very exciting stuff. Now we're just going to stay put here, wait for Noelle to come in and give us some better directions as to where these lions have moved to. Well, like I said, we're just going to stay put here and wait for Noelle. And while we do that, we're going to send you all the way up to the Masai Mara with Janie.
How exciting! Well done, Scotty D. Finding the Nkuhumas on foot. We found just a charming sight to share with you because there's a couple of brand new Topi. We saw one yesterday, I've seen a few around, and I assume that it is because not all of the females fall pregnant, much like Impala. Not all of the females fall pregnant during the sort of the first estrus cycle, and so you get that second round of births a couple of months after the first, just like you would with Impala lambs. But they are so utterly charming because they are just so excited to be alive. Look at these two here coming around the front. There we go. It's the little one ahead of the larger one, running. But there's so much mud that they are speed wobbling everywhere. And you actually, a moment ago, one of them was being slightly bullied by an older calf. And I never realized the sounds that they make. But they were making little baas like sheep. Meh. So we've learned something new about a Topi breeding season. I mean, they're chaotic. They're everywhere. These little tan shapes in amongst the completely unconcerned adults. And the older calves have this air of, how do I put it? Oh, look at it go! How would I put it? It's air of maturity. Like sort of 13-year-olds when they're surrounded by 10-year-olds. And they're sort of above those playful games that the younger children want to play. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. That's what I'm seeing here. I was young once too. That sort of sense of jaded teenage wisdom. Hey, there we go. Joe says they are so frisky. They are. They're completely nuts. They're just having so much fun. I love watching them play. Of course, it's all important and it builds up muscle strength and coordination for when they're actually running. But really, it's just hilarious to watch. Especially with all of this mud, because you can actually see they are having fun. And what a joy it must be. Imagine being born with legs that can run like that and jump like that. That's strength. Every instinct, every atom of your design is geared towards being able to run quite fast. Yes, that's a piece of grass, but it won't taste very nice because you're not ready to eat grass yet. Alright, well, you can try. Have a nibble on it. Oh, they're so weird looking. Like a cross between an antelope and a goat. Now, Lynn, you are absolutely correct. It's one of those amazing things that an antelope can find their mothers in a herd that's as large as this. And of course, it's got to do with imprinting on the smell of mum, the sound of mum, and the same applies for her as well. But you do see them make mistakes, particularly zebra. I've seen zebra often mistake one individual for its mother and end up with a kick to the face. And in fact, in one case, I even watched a zebra foal follow an entire wildebeest herd because it thought it had found mum. So they do make mistakes. What's even more... Come on, you two. You were playing so nicely a moment ago. I find even more astounding is when you get something like a penguin in those massive, massive groups, and somehow the penguins are able to find their mates and, at the same time, find their little ones. Don't go running into the males. That's very silly. That's very silly because they're just going to cause chaos for you. Yes, you stay away. You stay... Yes, that is a much wiser decision. Much, much wiser decision. You don't want to go and play with the big boys just yet. Oh, these Topi are so entertaining. There's lots of posturing going on. Now, technically, the full breeding season, I thought, was a few months ahead of now. But it could also be that the hormones of the females giving birth now are also causing confusion. Hence the posturing between the males and the fighting and the running around like maniacs. These little ones gone. With your spindly, spindly legs. Lady Starfire, yes, quite possibly. Lady Starfire is wondering if a baby Topi will ever hurt themselves running around like they do. Yes, I imagine that if they were to accidentally step tendons and ligaments, it's unlikely to be as dangerous as it would be for an adult. I mean, those of you with kids, you know they bounce. I mean, they don't bounce, don't test that. But small children tend to be far more resilient to those sorts of bumps and falls and the day-to-day accidents that happen. And it's more crucial for these little guys to learn to run and navigate this terrain than it is to protect their limbs gently. Oh, hello. I found a friend to play with. A slightly bigger friend. who now, with every instinct, wants to show dominance by mounting the younger one. You know what I've never noticed before that I have now? The younger ones have white eyelids. All of them. And then they disappear in a few weeks. Interesting. I don't know. Okay, we're going to go and look for more charming sights just like this one. Let's go across the Mara River and rejoin Ralph as he skids along there.
Thanks, Jamie. And, well, as you can see, everybody, we've sort of come into this grassy or savanna type area where we're heading towards the hyena den, but I don't know if you can see quite clearly on your picture, but the grass is very wet, and even while we're driving through here we are getting a little bit of a fine spray just coming off the grass as the vehicle goes over the grass. And you could think if I had to get out and walk in this grass, within 100 meters I would literally be sodden. So we must think now, just as we're going towards the den, how these animals in this grass, I mean, like yesterday when we were watching the lions, we also saw how they get sodden as well, but they obviously just learn to deal with it, and especially once the cubs are a little bit older, obviously they just continue moving around. There's no returning to any sort of den site or getting away from the wet. Now, when we go towards this den, I have a feeling that for the adults, they might have the cubs out of the den a little bit, off to the side where they have been recently, because I think with a little bit of the rain like that we had yesterday, it might fill up a little bit in the burrow itself, so there might be quite a bit of a muddy type of feel down on the inside there, and so they might be on the outside trying to just dry out a bit, and probably hoping that as the sun gets day this afternoon, because for the minute everything is very, very wet, including the road, the grass, and I'm sure as we get in there to the den site we're going to see that all the cubs and the adults, probably everybody, quite wet as well. So it is quite miserable this morning. I've even got my blanket over my legs. It's rather chilly, but I'm sure as that sun gets up it's going to break open these clouds and we're going to start to dry off a little bit. But nonetheless, the animals have got nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and as I say, even the den can sometimes not be the best place to hide either, because it might fill up a little bit with water, and so at the bottom it might be very uncomfortable. So sitting out in the rain, well, that's a choice that some of the animals don't have. They just have to. So anyway, they've lived through thousands of years like this, and so I'm sure that with all that fur, you know, it's almost like a wetsuit actually, this kind of neoprene material, because if you think about it, with the fur that these animals have, if that traps the water and warm air near to their body, yes, they might be wet, but I'm pretty sure that they could still be quite warm, and you quite often find, like yesterday when it was really pouring down, the lions were all just huddled together. So, and I'm sure by doing that, they just help a little bit to contain some warmth, and also just to generate some as well. Now, Michelle, you want to know if I've ever seen a black-footed cat? Michelle, yes, I have. I've actually seen one in the Kalahari region. They are very rare, and they do look quite similar to the African wildcat, and very often actually mistaken for an African wildcat. A little bit smaller, but very similar markings. Now, as you can see here, we just going through a little bit of wetty areas, but yes, I have seen a black-footed cat, and I might have seen more than I think actually, and having identified it as an African wildcat. Now, speaking of cats, it seems Noel is on the lookout for the Nkuhumas, and I would like to send you all the way back down on south to South Africa and see if she's had any clues.
Hello! Well, how exciting was that brief visual we got of lions on foot with Scott and Herbie? Good teamwork there. I'm super excited. We're headed that way. Whilst they were busy showing you those lions on foot, we picked up more lion tracks, at least one male and I think a female, that went in towards Biffleshoek Dam, and then they went into the drainage line where I can't get my car. Please, can you come up where I can't get the vehicle in? Sorry about that little gremlin that attacked me in that dip. It happens sometimes. So I've called Scott in and said, Scott, please bring Herbie. Can you check on these lion tracks because I can't get the vehicle in and you're on foot. So we're going to swap. I'm going to go see if I can get a nice view of the Nkuhumas that they found with the vehicle, and they're going to take over my tracks from that side and see if they can pick up on what I would assume is one of the Birmingham males and possibly another female, possibly from the Nkuhumas. But when we get towards the Nkuhumas, we can count and we can see we're not too far from them. It is a beautiful morning. It's a good morning for cats. It's a good morning for elephants. It's just a good morning. It's nice and cool. It's going to be a hot day today. It doesn't look like any rain on the horizon, unfortunately. And then as I say that, I come around the corner and there's actually, I will try and get a nice view for you, Seb. Just let me know. There is a little bit of cloud buildup. I've been dreaming of rain. There, we can see a little bit through there. I've been dreaming of rain. We really need rain. And you can see there, that will be our southwestern area towards the Drakensberg Mountains and then a little bit more south. And we do have some cloud buildup. So I don't like being out in the rain with our roof on because I find the roof annoying. However, I will take driving around with the roof on just to get some rain. It's way too dry, unfortunately. It seems to be a little bit better today. She's having a little bit problems with her airflow sensor. And I believe Nikki is chatting in my ear. Nick, so sorry about that. I got a little bit of breakup. If you wouldn't mind sending that through again. Ooh, I think Scott's having a great morning. I think Scott has something else he wants to show us. So let's head on over to him while I try and refine these Nkuhumas.
Certainly have found something else, and it's really interesting, very different from the sighting we had a few minutes ago with those lions. You'll be glad to know they did just lie up about 20 meters away from where we saw them kind of trotting off. And I'm sure it won't take long to get there. Now, this is a really sad scene. This was a tiny little baby leopard tortoise. How cute is that little shell? And sadly, some kind of an animal, I'm guessing a bird possibly, has got a hold of it and hammered open the shell and managed to pull out the legs. And I'm guessing quite a lot of the body. You see it's been broken up over there as well. So sad for this little leopard tortoise. I'm hoping that we can find you guys some of these living specimens because they are the cutest little things you could ever imagine. So sadly this one didn't make it, and now we are going to rush towards the area where Noel had the tracks of that Birmingham male, and who knows, maybe we'll be able to find 2 different sets of lion today. I'm guessing possibly the Birmingham male may not be as nervous as us on foot as the Nkuhumas were. But even though they ran away this morning, they're not always going to do that, and on some occasions they'll charge us. Herbie's told me 1 or 2 stories of the Nkuhuma pride giving him a rough time on foot. Good stuff. Well, it seems like it's going from good to better this morning. Tristan has got some wonderful news, so why don't you head over to his vehicle to find out what it is.
Well, indeed I do. I'm very excited because I've managed to find where Thandi is. Not that it was too difficult, given that there is a massive big 2-track that comes straight here, and you can see she is still passed out, still resting up in the tree. There is her waterbuck on the left and her duiker on the right, so she's got both of them up there at the moment. I can't see any sign of the little one. I think the little one must be up in a tree somewhere though, because there are hyenas around, and we found tracks for lions coming past here too. So with that, I would imagine that she must be up in a tree somewhere. I'll just have a little scan around and maybe we will find her sort of sitting somewhere like Mom, relaxing and taking it very easy. But isn't that just the perfect branch for a leopard to sit on? She looks as though she's thoroughly happy with where she is. She's kind of got all 4 paws down, which is a full relax mode. And she hasn't actually even lifted her head since we arrived, Joe. Even when we drove in, there wasn't even as much as a look, which, you know, for Thandi is generally not that common. She normally watches you very carefully as you approach her. I did give her a wide berth and try and come on this side of her where the light is a little bit better. Otherwise, we would have been having the sun right behind her. But it is very cool to see. She's an incredible huntress, this female. It's something that, you know, a lot of people don't really realize with Thandi is that she really can bring down a lot of different animals, and she tends to be very successful. The thing about her, though, is often she will kill smaller animals, and that's why we don't see her on kills all that much. But now that this cub is going to grow and get bigger, we'll start to see her taking down bigger things. When she was having cubs in the past, and so with Wabayiza, Bohuti and Kuchava, she'll start to kill much larger items as those cubs get bigger. And I remember her once killing a fully grown kudu. So on Chitwa, close to the airstrip, she managed to bring down this fully grown female kudu, which is seriously an impressive feat for a female leopard, and she brought that down. She unfortunately lost it to hyenas that night, but she managed to get a really good feed out of it, and Wabayiza also got to eat quite a bit as well. So she does target quite big animals at times, and having 2 kills like this in the same tree is pretty ridiculous if you ask me, but it'll be great for that little cub's development, that it's getting lots of nutrients from Mom, and also really good for Thandi as well. I'm glad that she's managed to get quite a bit of food. So Joy, you were saying that the cub was some distance away, but there's the cub there, right on top of where Mom is. So it's not in the same tree that it was in. Well spotted, Senzo, but why it's so high up, I'm not quite sure. What are you doing, little one? You are very naughty. I can tell. Thandi's going to have her hands very full with this. She almost looks as though she's like a carcass that's been draped over. We can see she's breathing, so she's definitely fine. But it almost looks as she's about to fall head first out of the tree because she's falling asleep. And you can see the head is kind of going over the top of the tree. Look, you see how it's going around? So I don't know what it's doing up there, but it looks as though it's fast asleep, to be honest. I've got a little gap where I am because I'm slightly lower than Senzo onto the little one's face, and it is fast asleep. It literally has its eyes closed. How it is sleeping like that, I have absolutely no idea. What are you doing? Cute though. It is very, very cute. I don't know what it's doing and why it's sitting like that, but it most certainly is very, very funny nonetheless. This cub is going to be a handful. I think Thandi's going to have a lot of work to try and keep this one out of mischief, but it's found itself a branch that it seems to have working for it, and it's kind of wrapped itself around, and it's just sort of draped over the top of it, and not nearly as comfortable as what maybe Mom would be. This is very funny, but you can see why it takes a while to spot it. It's very well camouflaged up in that canopy, as opposed to Thandi, who's lying right out in the open on a beautiful morning. The sun is just breaking through, so we should have a spectacular sighting. So while we sit here and enjoy this, let's send you back across to Ralph with a different kind of spotted animal.
Down through to the hyena den, and it seems that this is the babysitter that has been assigned to staying with the cubs around the den for the evening, and she's just been looking over towards the den every now and then. There were some of the cubs out a minute ago, but for some reason they all scurried back down into the hole. I'm not sure if she gave a signal to them that they need to go down for a while, but for the minute oh, here she comes. If she comes now towards the den site itself, it's very often that the little cubbies then can come out of the hole, because as they see that there's an adult nearby, they do start to relax a little bit. So let's see what happens here as she gets up towards the actual den site. Normally poke their head over the hole a little bit, sniffing as they do, and then the cubs sort of start to emerge. She hasn't got an overly fat belly this morning, so it doesn't look like she's fed very recently, but she's still looking rather large and in very good neck actually. And let's see. It's also not such a bad thing that they have quite a bit of rain like this going into these hole or into the den site itself, because it can help to keep it a little bit more hygienic than it would normally be. Now she's looking down that hole. There are a number of cubs in there at the moment, and so they would be potentially looking back up at her. I haven't actually been able to see inside those holes. It would be very nice to see how deep this or these exact holes are, because they are housing a number of individual animals in there, and I'm sure that they are rather large, or the tunnel goes pretty deep into the ground, and you can see in the entire area it's very well walked, so quite bare, but very nice to see the adult coloration with the spots and everything, and then nice to compare that to the little youngsters, especially once they get their adult coloration, but it is very white and fluffy for a number of months before they start to get the real tawny browny color on them. Now, Hannah, you want to know if hyenas are related to dogs or cats? Hannah, they are actually closer related to the cats, but they do have almost both characteristics of cats and dogs, but they do evolve from the cat line. However, they are in a family of their own, because the dogs being in the Canidae family, and the cats being in the Felidae family, and hyenas are in a group all on their own called Hyenidae, and it does include the spotted hyena, the brown hyena, the striped hyena, and the aardwolf. So they are a little bit on their own, and here we've got a couple of the little younger cubs. They look a little bit like adults. They're making their way now towards the den, and so you'll start to see now what I mean by the ones looks like a real adult, and then there's a little youngster. So you'll see them coming through now, and you'll see what I mean in terms of having the adult colors, but still being a little bit more white and fluffy. So you can still see that they're a youngster, but heading into all the colorations and of an adult. Right, everybody, I'm going to sit here a little bit longer and see if these cubbies eventually come out. Hopefully they do. But while we wait, let's head you on over to Jamie on the other side of the river and see how she's getting on.
I'm basically driving in a river. I mean, a slight exaggeration. It's not quite the Mara, but it is. It is an exercise in dodging flying mud and water. It was inevitable. It was inevitable. We knew it was going to happen no matter which way we went, and it was a choice between the main road or the not main road, and I was driving parallel to the road, and it was the choice between the unknown, complete with holes and sudden ruts, or the known, which I have to confess isn't that much better. But we knew this was going to be the case this morning. Now, Dwayne, you were wondering about The trick is not to overcorrect. You're wondering about whether there are any okapi where we are. Unfortunately not. There are no okapi. I think there's certain places you can actually go quite close to here and see rescued okapis that have been... I'm gonna sneeze. No, it's gone. That have been orphaned or whatever it happens to be. But no, unfortunately no okapi. For those of you who don't know what an okapi, I guess I'd describe it as a mixture between a zebra and a giraffe, but it's a bit more complicated than that. Okay, we're going to concentrate a little bit because I can't really look back at you at the moment without running the risk of going sideways. So let's send you back across to Djuma, rejoin Noel, who has caught up with the lovely Nkuhumas.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have indeed. They're lying here in the shade, being very lion-like and lazy, but having a look around. It doesn't look like they've eaten too recently, so hopefully they'll be hunting. Seb and I last night as we came home passed by some zebra. So we know the zebra are in the area. We know they like zebra. They also would probably go for a kudu, big male nyala. You know that we haven't seen buffalo here in a while, and we're probably not going to see buffalo for a while with this lack of grazing material. So lack of grass. And there's the tiny little cub in the back there. Just getting up because Mum's gone into the shade. So we got little leopard cub. Now here's our little lion cub. And you all know I love uber cuteness, so this is making my day. And you also all know that I really love lions. So I'm seeing one adult female, and then I'm seeing the tiny little one, and then I'm seeing all of the juvenile. I can't see, or they're possibly behind us where I can't see, but this is not the whole pride. So again, the mum of the little one, and then all the sub-adults. Now this one that's just in the middle of your screen towards the back, this one is looking like a young male. Can you see the tiny little scruff there of what will eventually be the mane? Now, Tristan has amazing views on Thandi and that little cub. So I think let's head on over to him to see if that cub manages to make it down that tree safely. And then we're going to go investigate a possible sighting of Shadow and her youngster.
Well, its cub is down already. You can see, look, it's come down to where the carcass is, and it's sitting on top of the water buck at the moment. And you've got a little growl from Thandi, but look at the light on these two. It is absolutely spectacular. You can't expect anything better. We've got gold light, and mom and cub are sitting side by side on top of the carcass. And look at this little one. Look how funny it is. It is the cutest little thing. And watching it come down the tree was quite entertaining because it comes down bum first. It's still a little bit shy to come down face first, and it tries to kind of wiggle its way down and kind of grip as it goes. And so very cautious, which is not the usual for this cub, because this cub normally is all over the place, but at least it's learned that it needs to be careful when climbing. And the reason why it needs to be careful is because, well, there's hyenas around. They're far from where we are. I just saw one pop its head up quite a long way away. And so it can't fall out of the tree because, well, that hyena would be here in a flash, and being so small, it wouldn't be able to defend itself. But there, it's somewhere through there. There we go. Well done, Senzo. So a long way away. We'll go and investigate which of our hyenas that is a little bit later, because I know a lot of you are missing the hyena action that since the den is kind of gone, and we don't really know where there is any other dens. And so we will go and try and see if we can ID who that is a little bit later. But look at how sweet that is. Look at her and mom together. How cute is that? Oh, that is amazing. You can't ask for anything better than that. And like I say, the light is just absolutely perfect. It's that golden morning light. It's more than you could really ask for, actually. And so Thandi is definitely spoiling us. What you doing, Thandi? You're a very sleepy girl. Janine, you want to know what my favorite thing is about leopards? Ooh, that's a tough one. Other than that, they are a leopard. I suppose for me it's the fact that they are this elusive, shy, reclusive animal that we in a lot of places it was very difficult for us to know what they do and what they get up to. So, being here in the Sabi Sands and the ability to be able to watch these animals that generally a lot of people won't be able to see anywhere else in the world, and they really struggle to have habituated leopard sightings like we do here, is probably one of the biggest things. It's just to have an insight into the lives of this secretive animal is a very, very special thing. So that's probably for me. I mean, other than that, they're also just insanely beautiful animals. The coat that they've got, especially in light like this when it's gold, you can see how Thandi kind of looks. She's as pretty as you could ever imagine. And so, I don't know, I think it's that and possibly the fact that they also live this solitary life. And for them to survive out here and to thrive as a solitary predator is really not very easy at all. There's so many other things that are going on out here. There's lions and hyenas and wild dogs. And so for her to be able to survive with with all of those on her own and raise cubs is a very, very special thing. So we're very fortunate to be able to spend time with these leopards the way that we do, and to be able to kind of enjoy their company is very special. But look at that. Right, well, we're going to sit with Thandi and cub longer because, well, why wouldn't you want to in such a beautiful setting like this? And Thandi seems to be a little bit more awake at the moment, and so while we do that, let's send you back across to the beautiful little cubs of the hyenas.
And that's wonderful what's happening over there with Thandi and the little cub. But speaking of little cubs, look at this. We've got one of the little cubby hyenas drinking from mum. And it was as I thought, that as the adult came over, a lot of the cubs have now emerged. And so we've got another hive of activity once again. We've got different ages of cubs that are out. Some that are still very dark, even around their head. Some that are just lightening up around the head area. And then we've got the very gangly type, fluffy ones where they start to get a little bit of the real adult coloration, but at the same time looking like their legs are too long for their body, and also that they've been through a blow dryer because their fluff is really fluffed out, if I can say that. And I really like them when they're at this stage because they do really look ungainly and strange, but fun at the same time. Now, Chris, you want to know how does the babysitter get chosen? Chris, that's a good question. I'm pretty sure they don't play rock, paper, scissors or drawing straws as we would, but there is some way how they obviously just choose the individual. Sometimes I think it might be just the one that is left last, maybe the one that has eaten the most over the last few days and is not that interested in going out to eat, but sometimes it can also be a lower ranking female that gets left, and the higher ranks actually move out to go and do some hunting. But this wasn't the babysitter per se. This is one of the adults that returned a minute ago. The babysitter did make an appearance and then disappeared back to her site where she was lying. So maybe in that sense it's probably more so chosen according to rank, because this female here that is now feeding her, a couple of little cubs seems to be a higher ranking female than the one that I think was the babysitter that stayed here. And so she won't necessarily hang around the real den holes when there's a more dominant female around. So everybody, it seems like it is a real morning for cubs, both from the hyena world and clan, and also for the leopards. And speaking of the leopards and Thandi and her cub, let's send you on back down to Tristan and see what's happening over there.
Well, Thandi is awake and the little one is all over the place, and the reason why is because there's kudu's alarm calling very close by. And so I don't know if maybe there's another leopard that is coming this direction, but they're shouting, I would say maybe about 300-400 meters from us on our eastern side, and Thandi immediately stood up and has been looking in that direction. So I don't know if maybe another leopard is on its way here, or maybe there's lions. There are lion tracks around here. Who knows what's going on, but how spectacular is this sighting of the two of them lying in the most amazing light? And that little one has been up and down and has been just like her mom in a lot of ways. And let's see, I think she might go to mom. Let's see, there it comes, coming down the tree. How beautiful is this? This is absolutely spectacular. Careful, little one, don't fall now. You got to be careful, there's hyenas around. Shame, she wants to go to mom but doesn't quite know how to get. Maybe go all the way down, little one. We don't want you falling. Although if she did fall, Thandi would be down that tree like an absolute rocket to try and kind of keep that little one as safe as possible. So I think she will make sure that it is safe, which is good news. How cute is that though? It is very, very cute. There we go. Well done, little one. And you're going to go up all the way to mom. There we go. That is spectacular. Wow. We are being absolutely spoiled this morning, that's for sure. Well, very good morning, everybody, and welcome to those of you that have just joined us on this live safari action broadcast. As you can see, we have the beautiful leopards this morning, and not just one, but two, and it's a mother with her tiny cub, and they're up in a tree at the moment, and it is just one of the most beautiful sightings. The little cub is being very playful and is going up and down to mom and is rubbing up on her and just trying to kind of greet her as much as is possible. But it is very, very, very good to see these two, and the sun is at a perfect angle, so it is just absolutely perfect. Now, this is a live interactive experience, which means that you can ask questions, so just post your questions in the comment sections below and we will try and answer as many as possible. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo. There we go, there's Senzo's three fingers. And these leopards, like I say, is a mother and a cub, and they've actually got two kills at the moment. They've got a waterbuck kill, which is the one just to the closest one to them. You can see the legs dangling over, and then to the right of that she's managed to kill another animal which is called a duiker. So both of those are antelope species. That one is a very small antelope that we get out here, much smaller than a deer, and then the one to the left is more along the lines of a deer size, except that this is a little baby that it's killed and she's now put up in the tree. And so they've been here for the last couple of days, but it's just they are putting on an absolute show this morning. It is really very spectacular. Kalina, you say hello from California. Well, a very warm hello to you, and I hope that you're having a wonderful day and that you will enjoy the cuteness overload that is this little cub. It is really one of the most special little things that we have out here. I absolutely love spending time with this little one, and so I hope that you are loving it as well. Now, the interesting thing is that we're sitting here and we can hear that there are some alarm calls also close by, so I wonder if there's not another leopard that might be coming, or maybe lions. We did have tracks for lions very close to here, and so we could get a situation where they arrive as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Wingnut, you're wondering if cubs fall out of trees because they're so high up. Well, yes, they can fall out of trees. You have a situation when they are still very young. They have to learn to climb, and so it takes them about 3 months to be able to climb effectively and to be able to do it properly. And so what you find with this little one is it's still learning a little bit. It's still trying to work out exactly how to do everything. So every now and then you'll see it's a bit unsteady and it'll slip a little bit. But the thing about a leopard is that it's got incredibly sharp claws that it'll be able to dig in and just hold itself there. And particularly with the cub, it's got massive feet already for its age, and so those claws will dig in and it'll be able to just hold itself there because it doesn't weigh too much just yet. So they do climb very well, but it takes a bit of time to learn it, and so they do fall out in the first few months when they are learning. But once they got it down and once they get to about 4 or 5 months old, then very seldom will they fall out. How amazing is this? This is so good. So Ellen, you're wondering if another leopard approached, would Thandi take the cub away from this tree and put it in another tree and keep it safe away from the kill to protect it from this other leopard that would more than likely be going towards the kill? Well, not necessarily. It depends on which leopard arrives here. So if it's the dominant male, Tingana, that comes here, then Thandi probably won't do too much because, well, Tingana is the father, as far as we know, of this little cub, and at some point they're going to bump into him and he needs to know that there's a cub and kind of see what happens. She'll probably hiss and growl and get between him and the cub, but she won't be too sort of phased by having to move it. If it's a different leopard, so another female or another male, then she's going to be very defensive. And what she'll do is she'll run and confront that leopard and try and stand off and allow the cub to get right up into the tops of the trees. So the cub is now sitting on a really nice branch, but right in the tops of the tree here is very small branches. And so that little cub can go and sit on the smallest of the small, and that male leopard would not be able to get anywhere near, or female leopard for that matter. They'd just be too heavy to get to where the cub is. So that's what would more likely happen, is the cub goes right up into the top and then Thandi comes down and meets whatever threat there is right down on the ground. Laura, you're wondering if I think this cub has ever seen lions. Laura, I'm not sure. I don't think so, actually, to be honest. I think it's a situation where this little cub has probably not, although there was tracks for lions very close to where this carcass is and where the sighting is. And so maybe she saw lions for the first time last night. I don't know. But we certainly haven't seen her in a sighting with lions. It's very, very dangerous for her to have lions around because, well, lions can climb trees and can get up to a tree like this. It would be really they would be able to get in there and that cub would be in a lot of danger. So hopefully she doesn't see too many lions for a while still. Now, there is a hyena that's busy lurking around here, and it's why both of them are in the tree. They're somewhere down below. They're sleeping, and it's very difficult to actually see them. Senzo, can you see them? Oh, there we go. There's our hyena. You can just see it spotted back in amongst the vegetation, so it's sitting patiently waiting, and so this poses a threat to this cub as well. So not only lions, but the hyenas too, and it's why they'll both be up in the trees, just to stay out of the way of that hyena. But that hyena is just being patient and waiting for scraps of this carcass to drop, and you'll find when there's a young cub involved, often hyenas, well, the carcass does drop and the hyenas then rewarded for their patience and sitting and waiting. Now you can see Thandi has gone back to sleep now, so she's not too fussed by whatever was around. She's obviously realized that maybe it's not coming in this direction, and she's going to start having a bit more of a nap again and just taking it very easy. But that cub is as cute can be. So, Kristen, you're wondering how other leopards and lions would know that there is a kill here and that there are leopards here. Well, there's two reasons. One is that it's a visual thing. From where she's sitting, remember, she's much higher up, and so any animal that's walking around could probably spot her from up there. It's how we found her, as we spotted her from a long, long way away, up in the tree, and so it's easy to see her up in the tree. The other thing is that there is a scent that is left behind by a carcass. So as it starts to rot, this meat is obviously not being refrigerated or anything like that, and so there's a situation with the hot African sun that you find that the carcass starts to smell, and that then attracts things like hyenas and lions and leopards, and so that's how they find her in these trees. But a lot of it will be by sight. Right, well, our little cub, I think, is looking for a place to settle down and to try and maybe have a little bit of a rest. It's busy watching the hyena at the moment, and I think it's probably going to be time for us to say goodbye to all of you. But don't forget, we do safaris twice a day for 3 hours on wildsafariLive.com, and so it would be lovely to catch up with you there. And if anything happens and another leopard arrives or lions, we certainly will go on to another action broadcast. From myself and Senzo, it's been a great pleasure, and we'll see you all very soon. Right, so there we go. We've done our action broadcast for the morning. So that was for some of the kids for Nat Geo, which is very good. It's always nice to be talking to kiddies and having them around. But how epic is this sighting? It is absolutely spectacular. I've been a long time since I've seen a cub sighting of this quality, walking around on these beautiful branches, morning light, blue sky behind it. You can't really ask for anything more. It is as amazing as anyone could really wish for. So what a way to kind of kick off work again. Leopard yesterday afternoon, a beautiful female, and now Thandi and her cub, and well, something else that is around as well. There's definitely another predator somewhere in this general vicinity, and hopefully somebody will find it. I know that Tax is tracking Shadow and Cub somewhere, I think. And I know Noel said there's something about them around. So I wonder if it's not them that's moving. I know that also Hosana was not too far south of us last night. He was on Little Gowrie, but that's quite close to where we are now. And he might then come up this way as well. So you never know who's going to arrive. Also, Tingana has been in this area, and so we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. Right, well, like I say, we're going to just spend all of our morning here because, well, why not? It's as spectacular as I could ask for. And so while we do that, let's head on over to Scotty D, who's still on foot, and I wonder how his tracking is going.
It's like an absolutely magical sighting over there with Tristan. We're also having some luck of our own on the bushwalk. We've come across another set of lion tracks, and we're not entirely sure who it is. You can see the back pad of one here and a few toes. So there's one moving down on this side of the road, and then if we take a look across over here, we'll notice that there's another lion. We're guessing it could well be a mating pair, but there is speculation. It's always hard to be certain how many tracks you are following or how many animals you are following. There may just be an extra lion following them. We're not entirely sure. We're just trying to follow the tracks as quickly as possible, and they are actually heading in the direction of where Tristan is with Thandi and her cub. So who knows, maybe those kudu that he heard alarm calling were looking at the same lion that we are tracking now. And let's hope that they don't catch wind of Thandi's kills, because that will create a very, very scary situation. So happy to hear that that cub is up the tree. It's got its Marula tree climbing certificate. It's the first time any of us have seen that cub, I think, so high up in the tree, as far as I'm aware. And so happy that you and Tristan are having a magic morning over there. What are the chances? We've very seldom... I forgot to talk about these marulas. I'm so excited about the lion tracks, but I picked up some marulas. And if you take a look here, you'll notice that these two are yellowish in color. These two are ripe. This one hasn't ripened yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to eat one of these delicious fruits. So what you do is you just break the skin, kind of like that, and then you squeeze the rest into your mouth. So now you can see inside there, it's empty. It's got quite a thick skin. Not the most tasty one. Can be a little bit gruesome, but this is the only way to give you an idea of what kind of fruit it is. It's got a kind of almost a snot-like flesh. That's difficult to chew on. You don't really eat anything. You more just suck the juices. That wasn't the best one. Let me try the next one. This one feels better. The last one was a bit of a dud. Delicious. High in vitamin C, and just what you need when you're on the trail of some lions. Okay. Very good. We're going to carry on and send you across to Noel, who's desperately trying to seek out some leopards.
Hi everyone, so we raced down here to where Shadow and her youngster had come across to our side. We're on our boundary, we're on the southern boundary, and as we get here, the trackers from the vehicles from the southern side of our boundary say no, she's crossed back south again. So she's gone into Hoffman's. So we're just checking a little bit down here, and then I'm going to turn around and try and go back east and see if maybe she pops up again. But yeah, unfortunately, we probably missed her by about, I would say 10 minutes. But even if we had caught up with her in those 10 minutes, it would have been a very brief, there's your bum, into the Hoffman's area. So we'll try, because one of the trackers that I spoke to said that when she crossed into Hoffman's, she was starting to move back east. So we just checked down here for them. They asked us just to triple check to make sure she didn't pop up. And now we're going to go down again. Oh, sorry. Guys, Wendy is having problems today. She's got airflow problems over her pistons. There's a little backfiring happen, and I'm sorry. So there's a bit of jerking that's happening. I'm sorry, Wendy. I don't know why you're so sick. So we will be bumping and chugging along. And I think whilst we're looking, let's head back to Thandi and her cute little cubs so you can watch that. We've had lion cubs, leopard cubs, and hyena cubs this morning. It's very exciting. And hopefully Shadow pops up. We'll see you just now.
Well, it's about as ridiculous as it gets if you've got that combination in the morning. We certainly are being absolutely spoilt, and wonder if maybe Jamie's going to pull a rabbit out the hat, or Ralph, and find a cheetah cub for us, because that would just be a seriously epic morning, that's for sure. But little cub is still up and down all over the place and still kind of doing its thing. At one point it was lying just in front of Mom and was kind of rubbing up, and Thandi's been so good this morning. She's not given us one glance of sort of stare or anything like that. She's just been very chilled and taking it super easy, and she's even been nice to her cub today. A little growl just now when the cub came down from its high position at first, but since then everything is absolutely relaxed and chilled, and you can see Mom is as content can be. It's absolutely wonderful. And then there's a little spotty bum that is hanging out from a V on the middle of the tree as well. There's our little spotty bum. So, Guide Monkey, yes, the cub was on the kill just now and was biting on it. Whether it actually got any meat off it, I don't know, but it was feeding on it and biting on it and trying to kind of pull on it. So, I'd imagine it has been starting to feed, but it's probably not eating too much. You know, it will rely more on Mom's milk than anything else at this stage. So, it's going to be a little bit more of a milk feeder, but it's slowly but surely starting to get some nutrients from a carcass. But how cute is that? Look at that. That is just ridiculous. So, Scarlett, you wondering how old this little cub is now? Well, Scarlett, we don't know 100% sure. We know that Thandi was seen with suckle marks on the 10th of November. Prior to that, I think the last sighting we had before that was on the 25th of October, when she still looked pregnant, as far as I remember. So it's somewhere in between the 25th of October and the 10th of November was when this little cub was born. And so it's close to 3 months old now. So that's roughly about how old it is. It's in that sort of general vicinity, 12 weeks, 11, 12 weeks, somewhere there. And so it's at that age where it is able to do these things and should start going on to meat. Generally, when they can start climbing, they start to have their first taste of meat, and it'll be probably fully weaned and onto meat by about 6 months. So in the next 3 months, it will be eating solely meat, which is good. So it's getting there and it's growing. It's much bigger than the last time I saw it, that's for sure. It's getting a lot fatter, and it certainly is resembling a lot more like its mom, that's for sure. Erica, you're wondering how long these kills will last before going bad. Well, Erica, I mean, they will still eat rotten meat. I've seen leopards eating meat that is so foul that it would make your stomach turn. It's almost got maggots dripping off of it, and so they will still feed on it for a while. It also depends on weather conditions. So if we have overcast, rainy kind of weather like we did yesterday, and it's not too hot, well, then this carcass will last easily 5-6 days, no problem. But when it starts to get really steaming hot and starts to get over 100 Fahrenheit, then you'll have a situation where these carcasses will only last probably around, I would say, 3-4 days, when they start to really stink and start to not be very good at all. But Thandi's got a lot of work to do still. She's finished the duiker, but that waterbuck is still a lot of meat there. In fact, she's really only just touched the rump area of that waterbuck, and so I think she's going to still be here, I would say, probably for another day at least, maybe even 2. But there goes, you see there, you can see there's a lot of meat still, a lot of the front end, legs everywhere, so it's got a long way to go before it's absolutely finished. But wow, what a special sighting this has been. Little curled up cub on the left and a very sleepy mom on the right, and then, well, macabreness to the right hand side of that. So it's a busy tree this morning. There's a bit of something on every branch at the moment. There's not just restricted to one place. How cool though. This little cub is absolute gold. And I must be honest though, I'm a little bit concerned because we're very close to Torchwood, and I'm hoping that she doesn't take this little cub out of Djuma. It's been such a treat having it around, and I'm hoping that she takes it deeper back in to the central parts and not into Torchwood and away from where we are now. So Sean and Emma, you're both wondering whether this cub instinctively fears hyenas and lions, and does it know to stay away from them. So there will be an instinct that there's probably a fear to anything. So there's a response to everything that goes around here. You can see when it first started to see cars, its initial response was to run away. Even impalas shouting at it that one time, it would trot away from them and be nervous of it. So it's instinctively very nervous of anything out here that makes a lot of noise and that could potentially be dangerous to it. But in saying that, it also is going to learn from mom. So it's going to see how mom reacts to hyenas and lions, and is going to know that those are very dangerous things. So when she sees mom hissing at a hyena or hissing at lions or running away from lions, she's going to know straight away, okay, well, this is not safe at all. And it's why it's important for us to view these cubs when they're still younger, when mom's around, and for mom to be relaxed. If mom is trotting away from us, then there's no point in staying with that cub and her, because then we're just going to teach that cub bad sort of vibes about the car. So it's always important to see, okay, mom is relaxed, then we can stay with her, and that's how the cub then learns that we're not a threat. But that's how this little one will pick up whether lions or hyenas are dangerous, is watching mom's behavior, and then there's a little bit of instinct in there as well. Right, well, our spotty cats have decided, I think, to take a proper nap. You can see little one is now sprawled out as well, and so while we do this, let's head over to Ralph in the Mara with the hyenas.
And yes, we are having an amazing morning for little youngsters and cubs, and mostly of the cat family, or a little bit related to that, with the hyenas being quite closely related to cats, even though they're in their own little family. And well, at least we're seeing lovely visuals of this youngster drinking from mom. And while we're watching that, just a reminder that of the exciting news that Safari Live will be going the US for a full week of primetime safaris. Yes, we will be going live right after some big game that is going to be going and shown on the 4th of February. But the real big game will be going on after that, from the 4th to the 8th. And that's where we'd also like you to get involved with our Safari Bingo, where one lucky viewer in the States could win a trip for two to Africa. That is correct, a trip for two to Africa, and the more you play, the more chance you have of winning. So please go to natgeo.com/Safari Live, where you can work out and see all the rules and find out how to play. Now, back to these hyena. And it has gone a little bit quiet now, so I won't be staying here for too much longer unless there is a little bit more excitement and some more of these cubbies come out of the hole. But for now, it's just one of them there. Now, Jem, you want to know if the den is just one straight tunnel or if it's a network? Well, you see, here the hyenas wouldn't have dug these holes to start with. It would have most likely been a bit of a porcupine warren, I would say, because it seems to be a network of holes. So my thinking is that it was porcupines, but it can be aardvark as well, or the ant bear that we know of. Also digs very elaborate holes like this, but they don't generally make a warren. They will make one burrow with a big chamber on the inside, but with there being a lot of holes around here, I have the feeling that it has come from porcupines who do live in small family groups sometimes, and they make a real network of holes, and they can have interlocking or interlinking tunnels and so on. So yes, there is a real network here, and that's why I'm feeling that it was probably dug by porcupine. And the hyena coming in, yes, they will excavate a little bit more, maybe make the holes a bit bigger to suit them, but would have been dug by either porcupine or aardvark to begin with. And then a lot of animals do use burrows dug mostly by aardvark, but also by porcupines. And so it's very interesting, this whole hole digging and animals that use those burrows after they have been vacated by the animal that dug it. Now, Matt, you want to know if hyenas will keep the same den site for a long time or if they will move it. Well, Matt, they can keep it for a reasonably long amount of time, a few weeks up into a couple of months even, but it depends on how dirty it gets around the den site itself. And because it can get dirty on the inside as well, it depends on how much they have defecated on the inside, the little cubs, maybe also brought back some bones and a little bit of meat and stuff that the adults bring to the cubs for them to learn how to feed on bones and get the meat off of it, and also just to prepare their stomachs and their teeth for that life ahead of feeding on meat. So it can become a little bit unhygienic, and so they can move to another site, even if it's relatively nearby. And then they could move back, for instance, back to this site. They generally keep their den site pretty much in the central position of their territory, so they don't move too far when they choose a new den site. And it seems that where we are right now, this is potentially the second spot that they've utilized with these little cubs, because about 100 meters from here there's an identical, or pretty much identical, porcupine type warren system, where it's obvious that the hyenas have also used that spot as a den site as well. So when they've finished here, or it gets a little bit dirty, they might then move back to that site that has then been washed clean by the rain and so on. But it's quite good for them to have quite a good splashing of rain that we've had now, because it will help to alleviate that little bit of unhygienic situation that might build up. So with that, you see, so they might move den sites a bit more when it's dry, and possibly a little bit less, or wait a little bit longer when they have more rain and it's wet and it cleans out the den site a little bit. So yes, it's not a perfect time for them to, it's not like a month apart. It all depends on the conditions, and yes, they will move sites, but it all depends on how clean or dirty it becomes inside there. So everybody, I think I'm going to start up shortly and head down towards the Mara River, see what we can find in between, because it's got a little bit quiet here for the moment, and we'll leave a little cubby here drinking from mummy in peace. But while we do that, let's head you on over the river to Jamie and see how she's getting on.
Well, we can see that Thandi has decided to move now, and has decided to settle on a new branch and start to feed. So she's moved, and there's a hyena that's now directly underneath where she is. You can see it is sort of sniffing around. Cub is busy watching it, and is just checking out what is this animal underneath us. And it can see that Mom is not too worried about it being up on the tree itself. So there it goes. It's just creeping away. How spectacular is that, though? Look at that. That is phenomenally good. It's going to find itself a little spot, I think, to go and rest and to just take it very easy. And, well, why wouldn't you if you were... Oh, look at that. You're going to go all the way up to the top now. Yes, much safer up there. It's very cool. So it knows that straight away the hyena is a bit of a threat, and so you see it's now going up deeper into the bush or into the tree so that it can camouflage much better and can stay out of the way of that hyena. Now, Nikki in FC says she's getting nervous with it climbing around with the hyena underneath. Well, I don't think we need to worry. I think this little one has played enough now and has climbed enough to know what's going on. Also, I reckon if that little cub fell and that hyena even tried its luck, well, the full vengeance or full force of Thandi would come down, and there would be a lot of trouble for that hyena. I don't think that hyena knows what it would have bitten off, because Thandi will not stand for a hyena going after her little one. So I think you'd have a situation where that little one would be okay. But I'm not sure which hyena this is. It's difficult. These branches are all in front of its spot pattern at the moment, so I can't see too much of what's going on. There you go. You can see it's very obscured. So maybe some of you can see some spots through all those leaves and can work out exactly who we've got here. It looks like possibly a male that we have, and there we go. That should help and be able to give us a few spots that we can use to be able to identify who exactly this is. Always nice to know where our hyenas are and who's moving where. It's a good thing to kind of work out what's going on with the clan and how the clan is kind of doing. So there's a few males that have been moving around a lot on Chitwa and on this sort of eastern side of Djuma. The females tend to have been more to the west towards sort of Treehouse Dam and those areas, but this side seems to be a lot of, you know, the males moving around. Although I suppose they go everywhere. Wherever there's food, we will find hyenas. What interests me though is that it's just the one. I would have thought that there might have been more, given that Thandi's not exactly been here for a short period of time. It's been 2 days that she's been here now, and she will continue to be here for another couple of days. So I wonder if maybe tonight, given that this hyena is here, that we're going to see a number of others starting to come into the area, and we'll find a lot more of the clan in this section. It will be nice if the clan does come, and a number of the sort of females, particularly the matriarchal females, because from there we can maybe work out exactly which way they're coming from and which way they go if they do head out of this area, because that might then indicate where's good places to start looking for den sites. That's obviously one of the best things to try and find, is a den site for hyenas, because, well, then you know exactly what's going on. If you don't know where the dens are, well, it's quite tough to find the hyenas and to know exactly what's been happening with all of them. But this is just the most magical sighting. It's really absolutely beautiful. I was hoping that we would see her go and feed. So, Crystal, who has told me, well, who knows the hyenas probably better than most, has said that this is that unknown male. Now, I thought it might be him that arrived last year in September, I think it was, 2017, and not really much is known about him or where he comes from. Now, that's not uncommon for dispersal males to happen within a clan system. You might have been thrown out of wherever he was, or just dispersed off, and is now joined up with some of the other young males that we have in this area. And he seems to be hanging around a lot in this section. So when I was referring to the young males, he's one of them that I've seen him at Chitwa a few times. I've seen him on Cheetah Cutline, seen him around Leadwood, Battalier, so he hangs around in this section. And what's interesting though is he's normally accompanied by another 2 males, or 3 males, sorry, that I've seen him with. They're normally all together, so I don't know where they are. Maybe they're off harassing some other leopards somewhere around, or maybe even the lions, you never know. Hyena's always up to something. But it seems as though there's a bit of cloud actually starting to come in. It was really quite clear earlier, and the clouds were quite white, and it didn't really look like we were going to get too much sort of in the way of rain threat today. But you can see now behind Thandi, it's starting to get a little darker. There's a few thicker clouds building a little bit, and we've got magnificent morning light with the stormy clouds in the background. Like I say, it's as good as you could ever ask for. I mean, there's no leopard sighting in the world that could be better than that. That's for sure. And so we're being spoilt a little bit to have these kind of big storm clouds behind her with this beautiful morning light. And no branches absolutely anywhere to obscure our view. Brent, you're wondering if I've ever seen or heard of leopards hunting from a tree. So yes, I have. It happens actually quite a lot, and there's a lot of videos out there of leopards jumping from trees just like this, from the same height that Thandi's at the moment, down onto impalas. And then also, you know, you see them kind of doing it to other species as well. Funny enough, now when I was in the Kruger, I was up in the northern parts, and I found a young male leopard in a tree there, and the impalas were all underneath the tree, and he was about to jump down. So they basically do this bomb drop where they just come straight down from the tree onto the back of an impala and grab it. But as he was about to jump down, so he had his kind of paws, and he was sort of about to just fall off the branch onto this impala, and one of the other impalas started to rut and snorted, and that just scattered them all over the place, and he missed his chance. And then he sat there for a long time, and the impalas drifted around the tree within sort of 15 meters of the tree, but never really got underneath him. And so he then eventually slept, and the impalas drifted away after about an hour or two. But it was amazing to watch how he kind of waited and waited and waited and sat motionless, still with his sleeping kind of look to him. So his head was down and on his paws, and as though he hadn't done anything. And then as soon as they got closer, he kind of just pulled his back legs up, and he was ready to almost just sort of slide off that branch onto the top of whoever was kind of behind him, well, underneath him. So amazing to kind of see how they do it. And I think Noelle was referring to it yesterday afternoon, and she was saying that she has a friend that saw a leopard come from 16 meters in the air down onto an impala. So they do come from quite high, and the risk of injury is there. But I suppose it's an effective hunting strategy if you are kind of trying to find food, and well, food just comes straight to you. It's probably the easiest way to go about things, that's for sure. Right, well, you see that Thandi is busy feeding on a carcass, and well, there will be another number of things that will feed on that very carcass, and one of them, I believe Scotty has managed to find on his bushwalk.
Yes, well, this individual can actually hunt for itself, so it's not just the big cats that are stealthy hunters or effective hunters, but also this rubber fly, and it's chosen a perfect perch. It's well camouflaged. You can hardly see it on there, actually. Look now when Dave zooms out. Thanks, Dave. And what it does is it sits and waits for any insects to fly past, and it attacks them in the air. So it's an incredibly good flyer, and it's got lots of little barbs on its legs, and it basically wraps its legs around its prey, tumbles out of the sky with it, and then slowly kills it. Usually very small prey that it catches, and isn't it amazing that it manages to catch prey that are flying past it on the wing. Very cool. I can't believe that Tristan's been lucky enough to see a leopard fling itself out of a tree onto prey. I've only seen videos of that happening. It's not something that happens very often, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that story when we get back to breakfast. Well, it doesn't look like it's had much luck in terms of passing prey. As we arrived onto the scene, it flew off and tried to catch something on 2 different occasions. It missed, and now it's just sitting and waiting patiently. Sadly, it seems like the lion tracks, the second set of tracks we were following, have in all likelihood crossed over our eastern boundary. There's a chance that they actually may have gone past Thandi in the night. We're not too sure. And that cub, or maybe Thandi and the cub just got lucky and the lions went very, very nearby, but without actually seeing them. If those lions had seen them, I'm guessing they would have managed to steal the kill out of that marula tree. It's not a difficult tree for a lion to climb. Good stuff. We're going to continue on our bushwalk, see if we can find anything else, and send you back up to Kenya with Ralph.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And from one predator to another, however, these predators are little birdie predators from the sky, and this is lesser kestrels, and they're here in large. And the little males, you'll see, will have a very brown speckled back, but then a very grey head, as the females are just the brown colour, so quite easy to tell between them, and a nice sexual dimorphism that you have there. But this species of birds, remember that it is a part of the falcon family, and falc or falx meaning sickle in Latin, and this is in reference to their little talons that are very much like little sickles. And these lesser kestrels, they breed in the Mediterranean across the areas of around Afghanistan and Central Asia to China and Mongolia. So they've come a long way, and they're a summer migrant, wintering here in our summer because they do breed on that side, in Africa, Pakistan, and sometimes even India. So very interesting bird, and obviously they group together for their migration. And we had a little long claw calling in front of us there, but very interesting, and there's a lot of them around at the moment, and they eat mostly insects, but they can also eat lizards and even rodents such as mice and things like that, but predominantly insects. So the greatest threat to the lesser kestrel, and it does extend to a lot of the smaller predatory birds, is humans using insecticides, and because then they'll end up getting poisoned as well and upsetting the system. That's what we do as humans. But they, on the IUCN, which is the organization that looks at animals and how endangered they are, or how rare they are, or if they need protection, etc., they have listed the lesser kestrel as one of the species of least concern. Now, Matt, you who have just logged in, thanks for logging in. You want to know which country we are in? We are in Kenya, in Africa, just 1 degree south of the equator, so almost on the equator itself, but we're in the Mara Triangle, in the Greater Mara National Reserve. So remember that, Kenya, that's the country, and then the area we are in is the Greater Mara National Reserve, with us being in the Mara Triangle inside that reserve. That is the Olololo escarpment in the background, and this is the area which is which hosts the very famous natural wonder of the world, with the great migrations of the wildebeest, zebra, and the rest of them, such as the Thompson's gazelle and even the Topi, but very famous for those wildebeest and zebra crossing the Mara River from sort of July towards all the way up till about October each year, and there's been a lot of documentaries about this particular area, not only the migration but also the predators and the concentrations thereof that are attracted to the plains game that are here in the hundreds of thousands. At this very moment, they've migrated down into the Serengeti and in Tanzania. So at this time, it is a little bit emptier than it normally is when they come back, and there are a lot more elephants, however, that are down here at the moment. So that is one of this time of year's real pleasures, to having big herds of elephant, all making use of this area while the hundreds of thousands of plains game are out of the zone. Because when they return, the elephants seem to head up the side of the escarpment, just trying to get away from the sheer numbers of the plains game. Now, Travis, you're saying that little predatory birds, generally, if they're migratory, they do come together in big numbers. Now, Travis, I'm just going to repeat that because it seemed I was breaking up a little bit. You're saying that this is probably one of the largest groups of predatory birds that you've ever seen. Well, Travis, that is quite possible, because I'm sure, because the little predatory birds like these kites and kestrels and little falcons, they're the ones that really group together in large numbers. And this is the first time that I've seen lesser kestrels in such large numbers, but normally it's the old red-footed falcon, both eastern and western red-footed falcons, or now they're calling them, the new name is the Amur falcon, also groups together in large numbers like this, and they are similar size. However, they do look a little bit more like a lanner falcon, if you know what that looks like. So they don't have the real grey head like these lesser kestrels do, but very similar size and shape, and also part of the falcon family, which means that they've got these sickle-shaped talons, the little sickle-shaped talons that the falcon name is originated from. But wonderful to see a nice group of kestrels like this in a balanites or balanites tree. Now, everyone, I'm going to move on shortly, but this has been a wonderful little encounter with these lesser kestrels. But while I do that and head on towards the river, let's head you on back to South Africa with Scott, who's on foot, and I wonder what he's been able to find.